So far away, Nisha. This video mentions skeleton, so you of course know that the Fact Fiend skeleton has to make a cameo. Yeah, skeleton!
So I can't be there in person, but he can.
Yes, Mr. Skeleton. There we go. We're getting bonely today. Oh no!
Is he okay?
It's fine, God. He's alright. He's a skeleton. I hope he didn't break any bones. Poltergeist is a film in which an all-American family has the absolute crap haunted out of them because they move into a house that's built on top of like 5 graveyards. A horror classic filled to the brim with spooky and wooky visuals, the film was an instant classic, which isn't a surprise considering it features a scene in which a lady is harassed by an army of actual human skeletons.
So yeah, I just want to say that's a red flag straight away. Like, a house being built on top of a graveyard, or many graveyards, is gonna like cause shit anyway.
Yeah, but I feel like with the housing market the way it is today, millennials wouldn't give a fuck. If you told me a house was built on 15 graveyards, and it might be haunted, but it is cheaper, I'd be like, oh, well, market's not so good at the moment. It might be worth a punt.
Nah, I'd still be like, no chance.
Oh, are you one who does not mess with the other world, the paranormal?
No. I like to watch videos on it of other people experiencing it, but I wouldn't want to be that person.
So Nisha, how familiar are you with the film Poltergeist?
Well, I've definitely seen the visuals, but I've not watched the whole thing all the way through, but I definitely recognise like clips from it.
It's one of those films where it's got so many iconic shots in it that they're in some cases divorced entirely from their original context, like the little girl sat in front of the TV with all the static on it, and that's one of those shots where that was spooky back in the day, and you get kids today going, what's that? Why is the TV showing that channel?
What is this TV?
Yeah, because static's not a thing anymore, is it? Can you imagine that in like the modern day, and it'd be like a little girl is sat in front of Netflix, it's buffering. It's just like, it's not static, it's just like a really blurry episode of The Office. It's in like 360p.
It's not even spooky. If it's buffering, you just think, oh shit, internet again.
Yeah, but that could be ghosts. You don't know if the ghosts are messing with your internet.
That is true.
That could be a thing. But Poltergeist is filled to the brim with like just iconic visuals. Now, like the one that always scared me as a kid is the guy shaving, and then he starts to pull away at his own face. That one always got me as a kid because he's a skeleton underneath. Oh no, there's a skeleton inside him. And Nisha, do you have a favourite skeleton? Because I love skeletons. There's something very amusing to me about the idea. I've got a favourite skeleton. It's Sir Daniel Fortesque from Medieval.
It's just a funny question.
Yeah, it's Sir Daniel Fortesque, the skeleton-like warrior. He's great. And also you've got as well, the skeleton warriors themselves. Play the clip. Because he's got the most butt rock 80s intro ever, just skeleton warriors, and it's just these skeletons on motorcycles, and you're like, yeah, that's right.
Well, a skeleton that's just like popped into my mind. I don't know if I'd call it a favourite, but it was one that definitely creeped me out as a kid and still does now. Okay. You know I can't remember what year it came out of, but the old Christmas Carol film, like the old cartoon.
No, because there's a lot of Christmas Carol films, isn't there?
There is. I'm trying to think what year it's from, but it's like an really old cartoon, maybe from the 60s or 70s or something. Okay. And the Ghost of Christmas Past is the creepiest, most terrifying thing ever.
And I think one of the few good moments in the Scary Movie series is where like that lady's been chased by a skeleton, and the other lady goes, "Are you running from a skeleton? It's a fucking skeleton! Why are you scared? It's a skeleton!"
Surely you could just like whack it, it'll just fall to pieces.
That's what they do, yeah, because it's a skeleton. If we're gonna like talk about skeletons, we have to put in what I contend is the greatest video I've ever made. Like everything on Fact Fiend pales in comparison to a video I uploaded to my personal channel about a year ago that I simply titled Skeleton. And it's just me playing, it was when I was playing Oblivion, and I snuck up on a skeleton and I punched it, and it exploded so hard that I pissed myself laughing and put my controller down. If anyone's not familiar with the film Poltergeist, the basic story is family moves into a house built on top of an old graveyard. Shit starts to get real because they realise that their house is a portal to the fuck you dimension where demons come out and try and mess with them.
Sounds like a bunch of laughs.
It's kind of hilarious though when you just... how often is that trope used? 'Cause it is a trope now, isn't it? But I guess like Poltergeist was quite a trailblazer. I was like, oh no, we built this house on an old burial ground. It's like, if I was a ghost and I died and I'm a skeleton in the ground, I don't want to hang out where I died. I'll go anywhere I want.
It's the case of like they're stuck there, aren't they? That's like a thing.
I guess
like
so.
the ghosts are like stuck in that area,
Yep.
or they've got like unfinished business.
Like, what unfinished business does a skeleton have? It's a skeleton. Anyway, speaking of skeletons, perhaps
Someone stole his skin.
give me my skin. I want my skin back. Like stealing stuff from a skeleton. But arguably one of the film's most iconic scenes is one in which, and I'm going to get the actress's name here, JoBeth Williams falls into a pool and her world turns to skeleton. And you must have like seen that scene in passing. You can see the screenshot of it there, where it's just like that is a bad day, isn't it?
That is a very, very bad day.
Just you're in a pool and skeleton happens, and it's like wow. And like I have to mention it because I think it's probably one of the funniest things Brad ever did. And it's when we were talking about the film Disturbia, starring Shia LaBeouf. And there's a moment at the end of that film where Shia LaBeouf also falls into a pool and his world turns to skeleton. And I never told Brad to do this, but it's fucking brilliant. And it's where we spent about like 5 minutes talking about the fact that Shia LaBeouf's entire career is him screaming Optimus in the Transformers series. And I talk about how Shia LaBeouf is a great, and this is something we've talked about, Nisha, scream actor.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about scream acting, and like, I talk about how in Disturbia he takes that to the next level and starts screaming, and Brad just really subtly just putting the Optimus scream while he's in the skeletons. I don't know why he did it, but it's fucking brilliant. Just Shia LaBeouf surrounded by skeletons. Ah, Optimus! So I want you to find out for me about if it is, and just to end this video, just a shot of Shia LaBeouf yelling at a skeleton.
It's the little details that make stuff like that. I love that sort of stuff. It's so good.
And that's the thing, you guys do edits like that all the time. I don't tell you to do, and they crack me up when I'm doing the rewatch to check if there's anything wrong with the video. Bringing it back to the skeletons in Poltergeist, as it turns out they were actual human remains that were put into a pool filled with fake mud, or holly mud, if you will.
Ugh.
Yeah. And,
oh my god.
And you might be wondering, Nisha, where did they get the skeletons?
Yeah, what the hell?
So, it turns out that they got the skeletons from a nearby medical wholesaler who just so happened to have a bunch of skeletons, you know, as you do, just lying around.
Yeah,
you know.
because of course, yeah.
And right now, in your head, you've probably got like the Ben Stiller from Zoolander thing going on, like, but why human skeletons?
Pretty much, yeah.
And the reasoning is probably the most Hollywood thing I've ever heard, and it is that real skeletons were cheaper.
Really?
Yes.
So it's cheaper to get actual human skeletons than, say, plastic ones?
Apparently so, yes. And this is one of those things that's like, it's been an urban legend for many years, but it has been corroborated by people who worked on the film, including the actress in question, when she learned on the day that there were real skeletons, after she'd finished the scene, of course. So it's often purported that her screams of terror are genuine because she didn't realise they were real. It's like, no, she's just a good actress, but she found out after the fact that they were real and was very upset about it because she felt it was a bit disrespectful.
Yeah, I would be best pleased, to be fair, if it was me.
And that's the thing as well, like, keep in mind, like, the film is about a family being haunted to fuck because they disrespect a graveyard full of skeletons. And to make the film, they grabbed a bunch of people's actual human remains and then just threw them into a pool for a special effect. Like, did they not watch the film they were making? That's a surefire way to get haunted. And do they say you can like donate your body to science? I don't want to do that. I want to donate my organs to science and medical research, but I want to donate my skeleton to a movie. Because I just want my skeleton to be thrown at somebody.
I was just imagining in the credits, it would just say skeleton, Karl Smallwood.
There's a famous story about that happened actually a couple of years ago, where some guy died and he bequeathed his skull to the Royal, I think like Shakespeare House or something like that, because he wanted his skull to be used in Macbeth, and no actor wanted to use it, even though they would be literally fulfilling this guy's dying wish. And I think it was David Tennant who eventually was like, fuck it, I'll use his skull, I don't care. And you got pictures of David Tennant with a real human skull. It's like, yeah, don't get more real than actual human skull.
And then he was haunted forever afterwards.
Well, there are probably still people out there asking, though, but why human skeleton? Like, surely it can't have been that expensive to source some fake skeletons, but according to people who worked in the movie, it really was. And It's worth pointing out that there is at least one version of this story told by a guy who is purported to have worked on the movie, but there's no evidence that he did, that fake skeletons did not exist at the time. Something that can be easily countered by footage of fake skeletons being used in black and white movies. They could get fake skeletons, they were just quite costly, and the production didn't want to pay those costs. So what they did is, as I mentioned, they went and got a bunch of real skeletons from a medical wholesaler and then used special effects to make them a little bit meatier. So the skeletons are real, but the meat on the bones is not, because they had the skeletons as like a base and then put special effects on top of them to make them look more like decaying human remains. And it might not surprise you to learn, Nisha, that the people who bought the real skeletons did not bother to let anybody know on set, because they were worried that they would react differently to knowing they were real human remains. And I can only now just imagine that after JoBeth Williams climbed out of that pool and found out they were real, and she's going over to all the crew. They were all acting just like Nick Frost in Hot Fuzz. I'm like, I didn't know about no skeletons. So far away, Nisha, today's video was talking about spooky things, yes?
Yes.
So I feel it's a good time to mention that we are planning to do a big spooky stream for the side channel we've set up, yes?
We are, yep.
And you're currently in the process.
I'm in charge of organising it.
You are indeed, yes. You're currently in the process of organising that with the other members of the channel. And we'd like to just tell the folks at home what we're planning to do. So this video may or may not go out after this happens. So there'll be a fact bar below letting people know if you've missed it or it's upcoming. And if you have missed it, you can find a link to a compilation of our big spooky stream below. But without further ado, Nisha.
Yep, so an idea I had for one of the Shield Fests was to get everyone and play spooky games.
Spooky game,
because
yes.
we're all terrible at it. I don't know if you are, Carl, but I know me, Lucas, and Brad definitely are terrible at horror games.
I love horror. I contend that horror is the most interesting genre because it's so experimental. Like anything can be a horror movie. Like any concept can be made into a horror movie. And that's why you get stuff like you get sci-fi horror, you get historical horror, you just get like blood and guts horror, you get psychological horror, and it's like. It's so expansive and all-encompassing. Anything can be scary because, humans are naturally scared of many things. And I like the idea of things that you may not necessarily be scared of, being made to be scared of them.
And like I say, horror films don't scare me, but horror games do. So I prefer to watch those being played like a horror film.
I believe one of your claims to fame is that you were one of Markiplier's earliest subscribers, yes?
Yeah. So I started watching Mark when he had only 10,000 subs. So, and he's on 50 million or something like that now?
He's in movies and shit now, isn't he?
Or is he in 20 million? I think it's 20 million he has. So yeah, I got into watching horror games through Mark and many other YouTubers. Mm-hmm. And I prefer to watch them rather than play them. So I've put off playing horror games for about 10 years now. So I was like, right, this Shield Fest can be about me playing horror games with others.
Yes. If I'm correct, we're going to get costumes. We're going to deck out the office. We're going to we've got our Halloween decks and stuff like that. We're going to potter around, get some drinks in, get some Halloween candy, or sweets towards Brits.
It's basically going to be like Halloween in spring.
Yes.
Going to play some indie horrors, maybe one long horror game. We're going to set some Patreon goals, that sort of thing.
We can't announce yet.
Yeah. I don't know if we have we decided on them yet?
I know that one of them is sharing old Halloween costumes that we worn, unreleased photos of the Fact Fiend crew in their various Halloween outfits.
That's something I still need to do. I'm the most unorganised person, but I'm in charge of organising this stream. So
if you want to see us all wearing a Halloween costume, there's one that it's not scary, but it is weird, and it's the one where Lucas dressed like a normal person. And I feel bad saying that, but if people knew what Lucas looked like, he has the bright colourful hair, the big beard, and the glasses. Just for one Halloween, he washed the dye out of his hair, shaved his beard, and took his glasses off. And I legitimately did not recognise him. When I was talking to him, oh, so hey, so how do you know everyone? He's like, Carl, it's me. I'm like, no.